Okay, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the business of web hosting so that you kind of understand a bit more about how that works, and it'll also help you in choosing a hosting provider. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a building, which, like all of my drawings, is a box. So this building I'm going to call, this building is a data center. I'll spell it the American way. So this data center, it's a big building, usually got a couple of floors, and it's usually got a secure area inside the building with let's draw little padlocks. So that's a padlock, and there's another padlock over here which is bigger for some reason. So in this data center we have a bunch of servers, and what I'll do is I'm just going to draw those servers. This is kind of what they look like. They're in racks, and there's a bunch of servers in each rack, and there are loads of these, usually hundreds, and each rack, each server is actually one machine. They're all connected to power, they're all connected to air conditioning, and they're all connected to the network. And usually each of these buildings also has a big diesel generator in case of the power going out, and they've got all sorts of stuff which is all designed around keeping all of these machines powered on and connected to the internet, even in the case of, you know, catastrophic power loss and earthquakes and all that kind of stuff. Now what you'll find is that the bigger hosting companies actually have a couple of data centers. So they might have one in New York, and they've got one on the West Coast. They might have one in Texas as well. And the companies who really need ultimate uptime, they must have their stuff always accessible. What they'll do is they'll have machines in all of those locations so that there's always somewhere that's available to be turned on if connections go down for some reason. So that's kind of how the data center is set up. Now if you take any one of these machines here, these are servers. So what I'm going to do is let's just take this one. We're going to bring it up here. What you'll say, this is a web server, and it's got let's say it's got a VPS on it. So I'm going to say VPS. What a hosting company might do is that a hosting company comes along to the company who owns this data center, and the data center might sell them an entire rack or rent them a rack. So they might own all of these machines but not own the data center itself, because data centers cost millions per year to run. So a hosting company might be a small operation. They've got, let's say, 5,000 or 10,000 websites, and they might have 100 machines, which might be a rack or 2 racks worth of machines in a data center. So one of these machines here might be a VPS, or sorry, it might have a VPS running on it. In fact, it might have a bunch of VPS running on it. So let's just draw in another couple of VPS in there. Now another company can come along. So this is the data center, which is owned by, let's say, company A. The hosting company here, we'll call them company B. A third company might come along and take one of these VPS. We'll call that company C. Company C might take this VPS and rent it, and what they might do on that VPS is they might sell shared hosting. So they've got a bunch of websites in here on their shared hosting, and they might have, say, 20 customers. So you've got 20 websites on this VPS which are being supplied by company C. Now company C's upstream provider is company B, because they're the hosting company who sell the hosting to company C. And company B are getting their data center space from company A. Now what can happen is somebody else can come along, say a web developer, we'll call them D, and they may say, well, I'll host your site for you if you get me to build your site. So they may have 2 or 3 sites here. So what you might find is that as you follow the links up, you're actually 4 levels deep in terms of where your website is hosted. So what you want to do is you want to try and make sure that there are as few links in that chain as possible. So you won't always want the guys who own the multi-million-dollar data center aren't interested in a $100 a year website or hosting contract. What they want to do is they want to find somebody like Company B who comes in and takes a load of their racks and pays them, you know, a couple $100,000 or a couple of million a year just for those machines. And Company B then are in the business of actually selling directly to businesses. So what you want to do is you want to try and be a customer of Company B, not C or D. And that's kind of how the system works. And you know, there are occasions where you find it's actually even more than 4 levels deep. You've got more and more people reselling, and you'll find that also that what happens is the guys who are reselling these VPSs are actually saying that they've got unlimited disk space available, and that runs out very, very quickly. And you get these fly-by-night operators who come in, and what they do is they run a hosting business where they resell all of this stuff, and they sell it at very, very cheap prices, and they oversell, and they can't provide what's requested. Sometimes they don't pay their bills to one of these guys here, and then they go bust. And if you don't have a backup of your stuff and you were on their system, you've lost your website. And this has happened actually quite frequently with some of the smaller operators. So what you want to do is you want to be careful that you're going with somebody established who are recommended, and do some due diligence in looking up what provider you're going to go with. And what you'll find is that a lot of hosting companies will be very, very honest about the fact that they don't own the data center. And this is usually a good thing, because they're being honest with you about where they are in the kind of the food chain. And you don't want to be... what you'll find is that, say for example, these guys here, these guys might give very, very good support. Or these guys might give very good support. So there are different advantages and disadvantages to being at various points in the food chain. You'll find that the websites that these guys sell are probably cheaper. They may provide... say for example, they might provide something like managed VPS, which you can't get from somebody else. There's a lot of different reasons that you might want to choose one over the other. But just make sure that you have some idea that the company that you're using are reliable. Don't go for the cheapest company, and don't go for the one that offers you unlimited everything, because there's always limits, there's always fine print. So that's kind of a little bit about how the web hosting business works. We have a bunch of web hosting companies that we'll recommend. You can find a list links from under this video, and we also we'll tell you the reasons why we recommend the companies that we recommend, and if we can, we'll give you some information about where they are in this kind of food chain. So do some research and don't jump lightly into the cheapest option that you find available for hosting.